One of the purposes or the goals of our Christian faith is to renew our freedom. We recognize that we're all in a trap. In other words, we're sinful, and we're all in an impossible situation. This is Romans 3:23. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And sometimes we think that in our spiritual practices, if I go to mass, if I go to reconciliation, if I pray this certain devotional, that I will receive more graces from God and I will be more holy. But really, that's only the first step. That's, communing with God, but we also have to commune with others. In other words, we have to do things that builds each other up. But what can also happen is that we can think that our spiritual lives will lead to good moral living. Now, hopefully that happens, but it won't always happen. And we recognize and we become aware once again we're in a trap. And really, we also think that we can ascend towards God. If I pray hard enough and live a moral life, I will ascend towards God. And God will love me more and more, or God will give me more graces. But this becomes a trap. Paul really addresses this in the letter to the Galatians, that the law or practices doesn't set us free. It's Christ that sets us free. And so really we have faith that our freedom is found in Christ, Christ acting in us and through us. And this is our great freedom. This is what brings us peace. But also sometimes, and it happened with the Pharisees and the scribes, is they pointed fingers at others. They thought, okay, I'm doing all these spiritual practices. I'm doing the rituals correctly. And I'm living a moral life and other people aren't, and they're pointing fingers. We can very easily point fingers at Israel and Hamas for the war that's going on in the Holy Land, which doesn't make it all that holy. And yet, who of us hasn't had war that goes on within our own hearts? We all experience that. We're all trapped in this, but it's our faith in Jesus Christ, especially the death and resurrection, that brings us freedom. Now, in our first reading from the prophet Isaiah, the people were previously trapped in exile, and it's going to be King Cyrus, an outsider, that's going to bring freedom to the people. Now, God respects the free will of King Cyrus, but he uses him to set the people free. And we never know who God will send us in our lives to set us free, and so we have to be open and ready as we welcome all people into our lives. What a blessing that is. And really, one of the ways that we can respond to this great freedom that God blesses us with is to simply say thank you. And it really adds to our freedom to say thank you, because sometimes when we get stuck in our small self or our little world, is thank you can help us to get ourselves out of this. Now, in the gospel reading, like many times, Jesus is in a trap. This is more than one time that Jesus is trapped. Now, what I find interesting is that Jesus still gives these people the time of day. Jesus will try to encourage them in faith. He will challenge them. And he challenged them first that they are to be good citizens. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. But then give to God what is God. We are created in the image of God, and we are to live like that. And what a blessing it is. And, when the disciples go out and they do all kinds of good things, and they come back and they're quite excited about all these good things they have done, is Jesus says, celebrate more that your names are written in heaven. In other words, celebrate who you are, that you are the image of God. You have always been the image of God. And, take heart. I have conquered the world. I have taken care of this trap that you are in, and you have regained your freedom. So once again, as we gather around the table, Lord, we are blessed. We come to give God thanks first and foremost for setting us free, for giving us a perspective to focus on so that we can be peace builders in our world. and we can do what is beneficial for our brothers and sisters.